Welcome to another edition of Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas. We'd love for you to follow us on Instagram at Best Storyteller Podcast and encourage you to check back on Thursdays. We replay some past episodes, some great interviews and great discussions that we've had over the years. So make sure you do that on Thursday and like and subscribe to this podcast. We start every episode with a saying of the day. Chancellor, what do you have?
Saying of the day is, if you think about what you're going to do in case you lose, you have lost. It's like the exit strategy. In Washington, they all got in a deal on Iraq about an exit strategy. And Patton always thought the exit strategy, you go in, you whip them, you instill, the type of government you want, then you leave. And but a lot of people now get into military conflicts and they start thinking about the exit strategy. If we'd had that in World War II, we'd still be fighting another war, But they won and then set up Germany, West Germany at the time, and Korea after the Korean War, and Japan, and set them up as democracies, republics, and that they operate and are our best allies throughout the world. So it worked. One thing I wanted to talk about today, there's a lot of people ask about, should a police officer, the shooting in Minneapolis and all that happened. I'm just telling you, if a policeman asks you to do something, comply. A lot of people say, well, you need to obey. You don't have to obey. You just comply. If they tell you to get out of the car, get out of the car. If they tell you, give me your driver's license, give them a driver's license. If they violate rules or regulations, you can go to court, and you'll have a lawyer, and the police will have a lawyer. And nobody dies. And the number one thing is, when a policeman stops you, he wants you to go home, and he wants to be able to go home. And that 11-year veteran that shot the lady, he didn't get up every day thinking about shooting someone. He had been there 11 years and hadn't shot anybody. And when you start driving a car, it's a deadly force. It's a deadly weapon, weighs 2,500, 3,500 pounds. And policeman's there in front, and they start moving in his direction. He's going to shoot. And unfortunately, that's what happened. And but I think that he will be and should be cleared if those facts are the actual facts that come out. But on Instagram, sometimes I'll look at some of the things they have, and they'll have somebody arguing with the policeman about their driver's license. And I always say, how stupid. Just give them the driver's license, and answer any questions. Now, if they say, can I search your vehicle? If you don't have anything to hide, the quick answer is yes. If you've got something in there that's illegal, then if you tell them no, they're going to go get a search warrant and then search it. Mm-hmm. And so it's best thing is to do is don't be taking a bunch of illegal stuff with you. I had there was a football player in NFL and got stopped near Dallas, and he had 53 pounds of marijuana, and his defense was it was for his own use, and that was not accepted by the authorities that was valid. But it's important to comply and that everybody goes home. If you have a disagreement, you fight about it in court later, but don't go to a demonstration looking and trying to be a victim. That's not the way to do things.
Have you picked up on the difference in protesting over the last 30 years? It used to be people would get arrested purposely almost. They just went peacefully. There was a line that they knew they went over.
Yeah, they got in the van, police van, and away they went.
But now it seems
now they want to confront more and more and create hostilities and create some action, and or have someone in their group create some action, and that someone gets shot or gets killed, and that's sad. But if you go to a demonstration, one side has guns and badges, and they ask you to do something, do it. Mm-hmm. And if it was an illegal command, then that can come out later or whatever. But I'm just amazed that the number of people think that you need to argue with the policeman and be rude and contest him. In most of those videos you see, they'll ask them 15, 20 times to give them their license. They bend over backwards. And, you don't want to get into a deal where you wind up getting arrested just because you didn't comply on showing your driver's license. That shows that you're stupid. Mm-hmm. If you won't show them your driver's license, or it shows you got something real bad to hide. But we'll see what happens. But it was just a sad thing that, she was there with her friends. They were there to demonstrate and cause problems. And she probably felt empowered by that. And I'm not going to do what they say. And you start driving a police officer and he's got a gun, he's going to shoot you. And it's just sad that somebody did not know that.
It seems like they were almost motivated too by the governor
the officials in Minnesota they have preached hate on ICE. ICE is a good organization, and they're doing their job, and they're trying to do something about people that are here illegally, and that the ones demonstrating on this, they think it's fine. There should not be any laws about immigration. Anybody ought to come at any time and do whatever they want to, and it's just not going to work that way. Mm-hmm. Obama, he worked hard at trying to make sure they maintain their borders. Biden primarily changed that, but you go back to Bush or Clinton or Bush or Reagan, they tried to maintain that you couldn't do things, just open the door and let everyone in. And
I think it was President Obama that said, yes, we are a land of immigrants, but we are also a land of laws.
Yeah, and you got to follow the laws. And the liberals, the progressives, they don't like it. You go back and quote something that Obama or Hillary said that was correct at the time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And it's a real contest between the federal government and the state government. Who's going to prevail in it? And it's going to be the federal government, and they're going to prevail. So we'll see how the public takes it. Other news, the President Trump, had a meeting with oil company executives, and I think anyone that watched it, those are impressive people. We had one of them, Vicky Hollab, was on our show at one time, and these are people that think they run billion-dollar corporations, and they try to do it in such a way that they make profit for the stockholders. That's the number one consideration. They also are environmentally friendly. You had very little problems with major oil companies or large independents as far as the environment's concerned. They bend over backwards to try to make sure they're taking care of things. But, with all that's happening, in Venezuela, you've got heavy oil. And that's primarily what Canada has been able to produce, heavy oil. In heavy oil, you've got refineries that can mix that with West Texas Intermediate or light crude, and it runs well in the refinery when you mix it. If you don't mix it, the best use of heavy oil is make asphalt. I mean, it pours like molasses, if that fast. Where West Texas Intermediate or light crude does not. But it's not going to be an easy fix. It's not going to be quick. It's going to take some years. And that no one, the people that just can't stand President Trump, no one has said, well, he shouldn't have removed that guy. They may not like the tactics or something like that. Madero, he was a bus driver who quit high school before he graduated, and that he was the strong man. He's a big guy, and he was kind of the strong man for Chavez, and that he would enforce against people that were not following the Communist Party line. And that's how he got to be where he was. And, of course, he stole 2 straight elections. And the lady that was his opponent won the Nobel Peace Prize and offered it to Trump, and supposedly is going to give it to him sometime this week. But and that's a different story, and it's kind of amazing to watch. But no one is saying, well, we need to get this guy and put him back in office. Okay. And the fellow's stupid. He couldn't get out of high school. Doesn't show that he's real smart, but he's stupid because the president had told him, we'll put you up in the Middle East in a house with a pool and everything, and you'll just live there and not be involved. And he said no, and then he got on and cussed Trump and said a lot of bad things. And they need to realize this is a guy you don't mess with, that if he says he's going to do something, you better believe he may do it. What's happening in Iran right now is really sad in that, the public has become so discouraged. They don't think of anything. They've lost their rights. Economically, the country's in shambles. And so they started demonstrating. And they've had a lot of people killed. There's supposedly 420 protesters have been killed and 100 police officers, but there's been 3,200 people arrested. And when you get arrested in Iran, they're not going to take you and give you 2 or 3 meals a day and not punish you. They're going to torture you. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what's happening. I had the opportunity to know the Crown Prince, Raza, that is now trying to organize people. He lives in Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. And when the country was overthrown in 1979, he had been in Lubbock and Reese Air Force Base and taking classes at Texas Tech and going to Reese Air Force Base, learning to fly. And at that time, they lost control of the government. A lot of the people didn't like the Shah. The Shah let you dress the way you wanted to and go to whatever you wanted to, but you couldn't criticize the government. And that's not right. That's not good. But it was a lot better than what they have now. And so the public, they're wanting a change big time. And every few years, they have demonstrations, and they get a little larger. But to control the demonstrations, the government of Iran, they go in and kill a bunch of people and lock them up and really violate all codes of conduct whatsoever.
It's a good example of something you pointed out before, that a dictator's biggest fear is their people rising up.
That's China's biggest fear. Mm-hmm. They fear U.S. and others, but their greatest fear is what happens internally. And that's rightfully so, because if you've got over 1 billion people and some of them turn and then it becomes public, well, then it's hard to control them. In Iran, they shut off Thursday night the internet. Just the government closed it so nobody could be on the internet talking to each other. And then on Friday, they started doing mass arrest. And so, this needs watching. President Trump has said that he's there to support them and everything, but that's a different situation than Venezuela. Venezuela was fairly close, and you had people in the area that were not citizens of Venezuela, but citizens of other countries that certainly wanted the guy gone. The Iranian government said they'd retaliate if the U.S. does something. And I don't know they've got the ability, but they would certainly try, and that's something that we have to be mindful of. And I think Trump and Rubio and J.D. Vance make good decisions. And what's happening in foreign policy, when I was in Congress, we tried to get along on foreign policy so that it appeared that the United States was, in one position.
United.
Yep, and that it was united. And that since then, it's become a political issue. So no matter what you do, the other side's going to say you did the wrong thing. And, if they'd had that in World War II, you'd have part of the people for the war and part of the people against the war. And I don't know how you'd been able to win when you split down the middle. But that was one were not, split. There was a lady that got elected to Congress from Montana, and when they declared war in World War One, she voted against. She's the only person voted against. She got defeated, and then she ran and got reelected in 1940. And when the resolution came up on declaration of war against Japan and Germany and Italy, she voted against it again and got beat. So that was pretty unusual. You only had one member vote against it. Stupid criminals. Let's talk about stupid criminals. In Florida, there was a guy was hiding a gun under his fake silicone breast while he was wearing a G-string, and he just stupid. He's crazy. I would tell his lawyer, plead insanity. Mm-hmm. That the jury might believe that.
You had me confused when you said he was hiding a gun under his silicone breast.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's messed up to start with, so he's going to have a lot of problems. In Thailand, there was a woman stopped and talked to a fortune teller and paid him to tell her fortune. And he told her fortune, and he said that she was going to have something stolen from her that day, and she needed to be careful, and that for a little more money, he would be able to keep it from happening. So that a miracle, I guess it would be. And later she went to a temple to pray, and while she was praying, somebody stole her phone. And she saw the guy that had read her fortune who predicted that she's going to have something stolen. And so she confronted him, and a bunch of people that were watching got in, and so they searched his bag, and there was her phone. So he was right. Her phone had been stolen, but he was the one that did it. And they should have something that says very stupid criminal, predicting that she's going to have something stolen because he knew he was going to be the guy that did it. Number of alcohol drinkers in the U.S., it's the lowest in over 100 years. And that people that consider themselves as drinkers, not problem drinkers, but in 2023, 62% consider themselves drinkers. 24, the next year, it dropped down to 58%, and for 25, came in at 54%. So it's dropping 4% a year for 3 years, which 12% is a pretty good drop in anything. And they are considered drinkers, not problem drinkers, and some of that percent would be problem drinkers. But it's interesting to see people are not drinking like they used to.
I don't know if that's a bad thing, right?
I think it's a good thing. Probably going to live longer.
Mm-hmm. Have a happier life.
Yeah, and so I think that we'll see what happens on that. Speaking of drinkers, Bud Light is doing an ad with Buffalo Bills about making beer with fresh snow and everything. They're doing everything they can to try to get rid of that transgender ad that they had, which is just stupid. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that they would run an ad that had an effect on less than 0.1% of the population, and that they forgot their base. And their base was not transgender. The base was working people that on the weekend wanted to have a beer and watch a football game. And now they're trying to get back at that base, and they've got one ad that it supposedly it's about the University of Texas, and it shows the guy, in my opinion, to be an idiot. And so I think most of the UT people are going to say we'd rather not run that ad. It wasn't good. Speaking
of cold beer, did you see the interview with the coach from Wisconsin after the game?
Yeah. He said he'd like to have beer. He wanted to crack them.
He said, I'm not thinking about next weekend. I'm just thinking about cracking a cold beer.
Yeah. He had his own thoughts. Speaking of coaches and football teams, Indiana is really good.
Yeah.
And they're the most disciplined team I've ever seen. And they go over details after details. And everywhere he's been, he was at a Division III school, and he won big. Then he was at a Division II school, he won big. And then he went to James Madison, where it's just gotten in, and he won big. And he goes to Indiana, and in 2 years, he wins big both years. Usually a coach goes in new, and it takes him 2 or 3 years to get control of things. Boy, he got control of them pretty fast. And then he's got the Heisman Trophy winner, Mendoza, whose little brother is a quarterback. Mm-hmm. And Mendoza's parents were at the game, and his mother has MS and is in a wheelchair. But I enjoyed when the TV cameras flashed to his parents, and what a good time they were having watching a neat kid. And they marched down the field. Oregon was never in the game. First play of the game, boom, 6 points. They had studied that film, and they knew in certain lineups he was going to throw a pass out in the flare and to the sideline. And he did, and they intercepted and ran it in. I think it'll be a good game between Miami, University of Miami, and Indiana, but I think Indiana's going to win.
I agree.
They have it in the trenches. They're good, but Miami, they've not been favored by any large margin on anything this year. But it's a team that also lost to SMU, and who else beat them? Did Michigan beat them?
I can't remember.
No, they beat Notre Dame
early in the season.
But it was SMU and somebody else.
But going back to that coach, I mean, Indiana was the losingest Division I football program in history, and in 2 years has turned
it around.
Unbelievable.
And a lot of people say, well, coaching doesn't matter, it's just players. Hey, coaching matters. With Bill Snyder, I still say he's one of the greatest coaches to ever coach it, and he was at Kansas State. And he took over a program that had lost and lost and lost. And I think the best year they'd had in the last 5 years before he took over was something like 3 wins in one season. And he went in. The athletic director at Texas Tech, Kirby Hocutt, played linebacker at Kansas State for Bill Snyder. And he said Bill Snyder was tough and that he was on details. You had to take care of details. And that Bill Snyder also had a rule that if you got a penalty after the whistle blew, then you sat on the bench the rest of the game. Didn't matter who you were. Because if you're getting a penalty after the play stopped, then you violated some rule of sportsmanship or something like that. Reader's Digest, they came up with a deal about where to go on vacations, and I don't remember going on vacations when I was little. Might go to Ruidoso for the weekend, but that's about it. And but the places, they had Brussels, Milan, Fort Worth, and Prince Edward Island, and Philadelphia, New York City, San Jose, and Fort Worth. And so they were doing well there. Also, there's a new study out where to get a job, and right now it looks like the number one place is Scottsdale, Arizona. The economy's booming out there, and more people are wanting to live out there for parts of the year. It's a great place to live from about October till about April, and then it changes. And I have some friends that live in Alaska, and they live in Scottsdale during the winter months, and they go back to Alaska in April or May and stay until September. But
they're doing pretty well. Then if they can do that, that's nice.
Yeah, no, it is nice. It is nice. The second group on the jobs list is the Permian Basin in Texas and New Mexico. There are jobs there. Now, if oil goes to $50 a barrel, then things are going to slow down. And so, no one knows exactly what's going to happen with Venezuela. But I think there's going to be more oil on the market than there has been in a long time. And so the prices may drop substantially. There's a city in Utah that they put into their police reports artificial intelligence. And they got a report back that one of the policemen had been turned into a frog.
They had AI interpret the report?
Yeah, and they had AI interpret the report for from the records and from the police recordings and from the radio broadcast between the police station and the officer. Mm-hmm. But they came down to report that a policeman had been turned into a frog. So, you know, on artificial intelligence, there's a lot of people use that in legal documents, and they're getting results that aren't real good. There was a brilliant brief written on the case in what the artificial intelligence, they knew what you wanted to accomplish, so they just made up cases. And they'd say case and such, and that what they couldn't find it, and the reason they couldn't find it wasn't there. Mm-hmm. And so that they were trying to come up with an answer that would really make you look good and knowledgeable, and that didn't happen. Remember the saying of the day: the moment you think about losing, you've already lost. Have a great week, and Kent Hance, best storyteller in Texas. Hope you enjoy it.